Let me paint the picture for you. A Colombo capo running the Bronx, a concierge gets clipped, a city windows fixed by a cartel of suits, and an old-timer branded a rat. This is Fat Dennis DeLucia, quiet earner, Bronx operator, Colombo through and through. From labor muscle to backroom envelopes, he played the long game while the family tore itself apart. And that informant headline? Wrong guy. Some said DeLucia was a confidential witness, and it wasn't him. It was Richie Ferrara. Bronx capo, bad headlines, no cooperation. Let's get it straight. Dennis DeLucia, or as they called him, Fat Dennis, wasn't a Brooklyn guy, not a Queens guy. He's from the Bronx, and that alone made him an oddball in the Colombo family. Born and raised in the Bronx, DeLucia carved out rackets where few Colombos dared to tread. Gambling dens, Shylock books, construction angles, quiet business, and steady envelopes. By the mid-'80s, he earned his bones. The Persico regime. Carmine Persico, the snake himself, made him a full member. And Dennis was in. And here's the thing, unlike the flashy earners, DeLucia stayed at low profile. No nightclubs, no limelight. He is a Bronx earner, a workhorse, and eventually a captain. But don't mistake quiet for harmless. His crew had muscle, and soon Fat Dennis would find himself in one of the biggest racketeering cases New York had ever seen. The infamous Windows case. A citywide shakedown that showed just how much the mob can control who got paid to fix a pane of glass. Late 1980s, New York's window contracts are a gold mine. A multifamily cartel locks it down. The Colombo side sends a Bronx workhorse named Dennis DeLucia. Working under Benny Alloy with Genevieve's underboss Benny Eggs Mangano, Dennis sits in on the high-level meetings. The playbook? Control ironworkers Local 580, intimidate manufacturers and rig the bids on window jobs and tax the work. Dennis isn't just a warm seat. Wire evidence had him cautioning guys about phone talk and tracking the money in meetups, instrumental on the Colombo side. At one 1989 meeting, the crew openly talks blocking an independent bidder, Graham Architectural Products, so the fix stays in. Then the crack. Contractor Peter Savino turns undercover, recorders roll, and the Windows racket shatters. By 1991, DeLucia, Alloy, and Mangano are federally indicted, and in 1993, the jury convicts. Dennis gets 46 months. The top dogs eat much heavier time. Call it what it was, a citywide shakedown with union teeth. Dennis does the time and keeps quiet. No cooperation. And while he's away, the family storms get worse, setting up a deadly score in 1988 that still echoes. The Angelino clip. 1988, Colombo politics are boiling. Vincent Jimmy Angelina is marked to be taken out. The crews line up, Carmine Sessa, Wild Bill Cotolo, and Fat Dennis DeLucia, who's the wheelman. It's simple on paper. Angelino walks, car glides, shooters move, and the job's done. In reality, these things are pure chaos. Angelino steps into the kill zone. The team surges. Shots crack. In seconds, it's over. Angelino's clipped. This isn't movie glamour. It's heat, panic, and fallout. And for Dennis, the wheelman role ties him to the score, even if he never touched the trigger. Investigations spool up, names surface. DeLucia ultimately pleads out on related counts down the line, doing real time, another notch in her career that kept stacking charges. The hit doesn't end the trouble, it pours gasoline on it. The Third Colombo War's coming, and the Persico side where Dennis lives is about to bleed. Wheelman today, defendant tomorrow, and the family about to split wide open. By the early 1990s, the Colombos weren't just battling the law. They were at war with themselves. On one side, you got Carmine Persico, ruling from a prison cell, insisting loyalty to the old guard. And on the other, you had Vic Arena, the acting boss, hungry to take it all. Dennis DeLucia stayed on the Persico side. No hedging, no flip-flop. That loyalty meant he was locked into the bloodshed that followed. Shootouts in broad daylight, crews ambushed at lights, neighbors ducking for cover, and by the time the dust settled, over a dozen men were clipped, and the family was just a shell of itself. For Fat Dennis, the war meant more prison time, more indictments, and a family shrinking before his eyes. And yet, against the odds, he'd rise again, running a crew from the Bronx while most of his family ranks were gone. Out of the box and back to the Bronx, Fat Dennis DeLucia kept it simple, low profile, steady envelopes, no flash. He isn't chasing headlines. He's running a crew, gambling books, a little Shylock here and there, and the kind of union whispers that never make the papers. The Bronx isn't traditional Colombo turf, but Fat Dennis makes it feel like home field. He had control of meetings, trusted couriers, no phone talk as a standing order. He mentors and moves with a tight circle, guys like Joseph Savarese and Hilario Sessa, quiet operators, Bronx rhythm. And then there's the paradox, the same stern hand that runs collections as the dad and granddad showing up for the family. Letters talk about support and steadiness, not the stuff of tabloid covers. But make no mistake, though, this isn't a retirement plan. The games keep spinning, the money keeps moving, and the Bronx captain keeps the lights off and the cash flowing. But then the tide shifts again, a sweeping case that grabs the whole administration, and it yanks the Bronx into the frame. January 2011, a dawn raid across the 5 boroughs, 127 suspects cuffed, the biggest organized crime takedown in U.S. history, and yes, Fat Dennis DeLucia was on the list. What were the charges? Well, it was extortion, Bronx rackets, and even flexing on another family, the Gambinos, over unpaid hospital bills. The story goes a Gambino associate racks up medical debt. The Colombos lean in, pressing his people for cash. Interfamily taxation at its rawest. And then came the Bronx gambling club shake. Dennis's crew leaned on a local club, threatening heat if the house didn't pay its cut. In 2012, Dennis pled guilty to extortion conspiracy. The court called it a Bronx tax on vice, and they handed him 46 months behind bars. There's no fireworks, no gunplay, just envelopes, quiet threats, and a guilty plea. Fat Dennis did the time, and like always, he didn't break. But the biggest headline was still ahead. You have a 2021 takedown and a rumor that falsely tagged DeLucia as a federal informant. September 14, 2021, Brooklyn Federal Court unseals a 19-count indictment. The whole Colombo administration, Andy Mush-Russo, underboss Benji Casalazzo, consigliere Rolf Di Matteo, plus captains including Richie Ferrara and Vinny Unions Ricciardo. Prosecutors say the crew squeezed a Queens labor union and its health fund, even threatening to put a union official in the ground on a recorded call. The goal of this, steer contracts, skim cash, and keep the Colombo family funded. Now here's where the story gets messy. In the chatter that followed, some reporting and street talk wrongly tagged Fat Dennis DeLucia as the confidential witness in the case. You see, he wasn't charged in that 2021 indictment, and there's no public filing naming him as the confidential witness. Subsequent reporting identified Richie Ferrara, a Colombo captain who later pled guilty, as the insider who provided key help to the investigators. That identification appears in later coverage of the case and in summaries of the outcomes and the documents that I've looked at. As the cases moved, multiple defendants pled guilty. Ferrara himself took a racketeering plea tied to union extortion. Others followed, and sentences rolled out through 2023 and 2024. So let's get it straight. DeLucia was not the informant. The cooperating insider was reported to be Ferrara, who's with a different crew and a different role. With the rumor put to bed, we look at Fat Dennis's last chapter, the Bronx capo who kept his head down while the family unraveled. By the 2010s, the Colombo family looked tired, but in the Bronx, one captain kept the lights low and the envelope steady. Fat Dennis DeLucia built a career on patience, long games, quiet meets, almost no headlines until the feds forced it. He rode out the Windows case, the Civil War, the 2011 sweep, and a rumor that got it all wrong. Through it all, he never cooperated. Two worlds, the stern earner and the family man. That paradox is his footprint, not splashy but stubborn. Call him old school, Bronx radius, small circle, rules about phones, loyalty to the Persco line, a last echo of the analog mob in a digital city. And that's the measure. Quiet capo survived eras and the gossip. From fixed windows to a family at war, from the Bronx grind to bad headlines, Dennis DeLucia stayed the same, low profile and no cooperation. And for the record, again, he wasn't the informant, and that was a different captain altogether. If you want mob history without the myths, hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment on the next story that you want to hear. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.